Welcome back, fight fans. This is the Dazn Boxing Show. I go by the name of Vak.
And I'm Barack the Boxing Bully.
So nice of you to join us. Big boxing news, highly anticipated heavyweight showdown. Rematch, that is, for the unification heavyweight crown. Looks like it's going down August 20th. That's right. Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua. He's trying to get those straps back as he did once upon a time in Saudi Arabia against Andy Ruiz. Barack, listen, we don't know the details as far as like the venue or the broadcaster, but we know that this is the date that they have locked in for this fight. At least we know it's going to happen.
Well, you know how there's a bunch of superstitions in boxing, individually with each boxer. You got Marquez drinking his own urine, before he fought Floyd Mayweather, and we're talking about Joshua, who wants to be the rematch king. So what do? You go back to where you won your first rematch in Saudi Arabia. So maybe that's a comfort zone for him. He has a new trainer. I don't know. Garcia is a great trainer, has a lot of great champs. Is going to teach him to be more offensive, and that's what we need to see an offensive Joshua. But how do you see him beating Usyk, who's just such a classic boxer?
Well, I mean, look, remember, this is boxing. This is also the heavyweight division, and Anthony Joshua is a heavy man, heavy-hitting heavyweight. So one punch can end the night. Listen, Alexander Usyk himself talked about the first fight, about getting hit with that right hand, and he said he went to the moon and back. Thank God that he was able to come back to the ring and finish the fight, but he was hurt. In other words, Anthony Joshua can hurt that man, and he wasn't that offensive. He was a bit timid with certain shots. So maybe a totally different Anthony Joshua with a different approach. Obviously, he's going to have to go through some fire with a guy like Alexander Usyk, who is very skilled from the southpaw stance. Not to mention, he looks in shape. I've seen some pictures and some images of him now. Looks like he is in the best shape of his life. So
when have you ever seen Anthony Joshua not in shape? He's always big.
I'm talking about Usyk. I'm talking about Alexander Usyk is more ripped than he's ever been.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was talking about his, Anthony Joshua's approach to fighting that type of guy. You're going to have to deal with some fire and skill and counter punching, but maybe Garcia is going to answer your question, maybe Garcia is going to get his mind frame different. Not so much skill, because he has the physical ability to do all those things, but maybe if it's changed his mindset, then he can go implement that in a fight. I think that's his chance to get those straps back. He has to overpower the smaller man.
Yeah, this fight is extremely important for Anthony Joshua. I don't think it's all or nothing, though. I do think even if he loses again, there's a way back for Anthony Joshua. He's still young. He still has an incredible fan base. And there's still more to learn, no matter what. Usyk is going to be a tough task. But yes, I do think a confident AJ can overwhelm Usyk because he's just that much bigger. I mean, it's kind of like how we saw Bivol beat Canelo. Canelo's a great fighter, one of the greatest fighters, and he was overwhelmed. He was overwhelmed with volume and size. And Bivol had speed as well, and distance. So I think that's something that Joshua can do. Now, if he loses, though, I don't know where he goes from there. But if he wins, he's back on top. I want to know, my question is, if he wins, does that attract Fury to come back to the sport if he really retired?
1,000%. Of course, we all know how big that fight can actually be. That's Joshua versus Fury somewhere in the UK. Now, listen, I mentioned it last week when we talked about the breaking deal with Dazn and Anthony Joshua, that even in a loss against Usyk, it doesn't mean that it's over for AJ. You just mentioned that. So yeah. I agree with you in that regards. Obviously, winning will be better. Now, I think that Anthony Joshua has to show that old vintage side of him. I think that is going to get the fans back on track on how they used to love AJ. Look, they still do. We all saw how many people come to his fights even after Ruiz lost. But what I'm saying is, I think that he has to dig back in the toy chest and pull out some of the things that he's already had in the ring. Like, it makes me think of the Dillian White fight, even leading up to the fight. The press conferences, the weigh-ins, and his approach inside that ring, that killer instinct.
In other words,
that's what AJ needs to bring back.
Right.
And I think that he has the ability to do it.
Yeah, in other words, the Joshua that was handing Ruiz the belt, at the press conference, that's not the Joshua we want to see. We want to see that Joshua that was threatening Dominic Brazil. Like, you're not about that life. Watch your mouth. You know, that's the kind of Joshua we want to see. And Usyk, we know, is going to come in there prepared mentally and physically. So we should have a good fight, especially with the added new trainer in Robert Garcia. Now, some people are saying, where is this going to put Anthony Joshua? Or rather, where would this put Usyk if Usyk beats Joshua? Let's say Usyk stops Joshua. Does that slide him further up? Maybe number one. Some people got him number one already. We don't. You know, does that slide him number one, beating the same guy again?
Somebody,
like Fury and Wilder.
Wait. People have him at number one on a pound for pound list?
Yes, sir.
Whose list? Must be. I don't know whose major list, important list has him at number one. But nevertheless, yes, I think a win against Joshua again. It's big, nevertheless, but to your point, it's beating the same guy. Now, I just want to go back real quick on the approach.
But if it's a knockout, it's still beating him differently. Kind of like
it is.
Kind of like Inoue beat Donaire now, second time knockout. You know, so
but
maybe.
I want to touch on X's and O's real quick. You said something about AJ overwhelming Usyk, and I believe that is the keys to victory here, only because Usyk is a guy that starts off slow usually. I mean, we saw his first couple of heavyweight fights where guys had success against him. Whether you want to say he is calculating and making adjustments and figuring his opponent out, regardless of the fact he does start slow and picks up the pace. So I think if AJ does overwhelm him early in the fight with power and volume, maybe before he gets a chance to get into a rhythm, I think he has a great shot at beating an Usyk starting early in the fight, first 4 rounds, in shape, non-stop, powerful AJ before Usyk gets the engine going.
I mean, that almost seems like a no-brainer. You know, when you got a guy that's 240 pounds, maybe even higher than that, and he's coming full force at you, you can't go punch for punch with AJ if you're Usyk, and that seems like a no-brainer. But can Usyk have the power to maybe rather slip some shots and have the power to hurt AJ early in the fight? I don't know. He did kind of hurt AJ in the last round when he was against the ropes, but like you said,
that was an exhausted AJ after 12 rounds.
Absolutely, and AJ was only doing like arm punches and was able to hurt Usyk. Right. So imagine him sitting down in his punches,
sitting down in his shots. And listen, he's going to have to take risks. You know, AJ, with this new approach that we're talking about, at least that we think might be successful against Usyk, that comes with risks. You're going to have to fight fire with fire at some point, because we know that it's going to be tough to outbox and out-counter Usyk. So you're going to have to get in the kitchen. It's going to be hot there. But I think if AJ lands some big shots, we might see a different fight.
I don't only want to talk about what Joshua is going to do different. I also want to talk about what Usyk is probably going to do different, because think about it. We're not the only ones who's thinking that Joshua is going to come in there a little bit more aggressive because he has Robert Garcia, and everybody's telling him he should have done that anyway. All of the trainers that have spoken about it in any interview. Usyk is probably thinking that as well, and his team is thinking that. So that's probably why he's more ripped, like you said, because he's going to use his legs more. He's training to use his legs more if he has to be more elusive, which we know he can be. And that's going to be a harder Usyk to fight as well.
Well, there you have it. It's looking like August 20th. Can't wait for that heavyweight rematch. For more on that story, make sure you go to Dazn News. They got you covered, all things boxing. My guys over there. All right? Peace and love. Stay safe. Right here.